Oh, there we go. So it's recording to my LF account. Thanks, y'all. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Joe.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for joining another episode of the OpenJS Foundation's Cross-Project Council meeting. Today's the last day of August in the year 2021. We've made it this far. Yeah, I want to address people as if we're alive, but we are not. We're recording, so we'll see you in the future. Let's get the thing going. Do we have any announcements, Jory? I saw some stuff on there.
Yeah, like super quick announcements. The OpenJS World Programming Committee, that's happening bi-weekly every other week on Thursday mornings, 11 Eastern. If you are interested in attending, it's on the public calendar. We'd love to have you. We're brainstorming keynotes at the moment. It's a really exciting time. So get involved with the programming and also the fun activities that we're planning to do in person. Tierney's going to do an escape room is what I decided last week. Nice. So there we go. So you can get involved with stuff like that. Also next week is book club, my favorite. We're talking about the books How to Do Nothing and Braiding Sweetgrass on September 7th. That one had been postponed to accommodate some other attendees. So September 7th, be there. It's on the public calendar also. Want to say that we're starting on easy CLA migrations for projects. That's going really well so far, actually. So OpenJS Foundation projects, if you want to migrate off our old CLA infrastructure onto the new tool, we're working on that for you now. So far, so good, smooth sailing. Let me know if you're ready for that fun activity, which really is not that hard. It takes like just a few minutes. Also, thank you really quick for those who responded to our cookie question. I'm also happy to take any further questions you all have about cookies, but expect something very soon from Brian and I about just the findings from our little questionnaire there. And then last but not least, today's the very last day that our voting members can cast their ballot for the secondary CPC election. I think there's just a couple of people who haven't cast yet, and I will definitely poke those people, but we'll be announcing that very soon. So those are the updates or announcements that I have, I think.
Well, we'll announce in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, or when, yes, or when all of the vote, if I can get the other two ballots in than before.
Yeah. Okay, great. Excellent. I feel like I had I was just going to say, yeah, if anybody has any like keynote speaker ideas for the next year's OpenJS World, definitely reach out. We're thinking through that right now. Cool. I'll just add Node.js had a couple of security releases, so check that out, update, whatnot. Right on. With that, we can get into the agenda. Looking through here, the first thing on the agenda is pull request 789. This is the work in progress to start listing documents maintained by the CPC. This is a draft here, but if anybody wants to help kind of flesh this out till we got it started, I think there's more that we can add if anybody has a moment to kind of help, build that out further. That'd be great. Any questions or comments on that one?
I'll work on it when I have the time.
Great, thank you.
Is there any way we could automate that? Just thought that I just had. May not make sense at all.
I'm not sure how it would work.
Harsh to engineering yourself here, Michael.
I'm just wondering, if we crawled the repo and it was somehow tagged or something. Anyway, just plant the seed, not necessarily to change any ideas.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. If we were able to tag documents, then that could work. Yeah.
Anyway, I don't. I'd say we just keep on going, but it was just a thought that popped in. So.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Always looking to automate. Right on. So if we move on, then the next issue is 786, clarify requirements around COC violation. You've got a few comments here, Toby. I don't know if you want to chime in at all.
I think we had agreed on next steps, and then we just have to do the next steps. I think that's the status.
Yeah. Okay. There are a bunch of check boxes. Are they all part of the? Oh, I see a section listing the requirements outlined above. Okay, yeah. All right, cool. Great. So we have next steps. Whenever anyone can help move that forward, that would be great. Appreciative. We already talked about briefly the 784 issue 784 kickoff election process for a secondary CPC director. Today's the final day. Jory's going to poke the folks who have not voted yet, and we assume that we will announce either tomorrow or once final voters. I'm reading as someone's typing. I assume it's Jory, the anonymous.
That's me.
Oh, it is. Okay. Cool. Next up is pull request 782, simplify code of conduct page. Letting this load here. So
We were waiting on the board for that, I think, but then if the board meeting got canceled,
yeah.
we're gonna wait some more.
It did, it got canceled. We did send out an email update to the board, which included this item for review. And I think Brian may prepare some material for the board to conduct electronic votes on. So we may not have to wait till the next board meeting, but.
Did that go out? Because like it might have gone out while I was on holiday, but I don't remember seeing the email.
It went out Friday evening of the 27th.
Of August.
Of
Okay.
August, yeah.
Yes. Okay. I was out yesterday, so I haven't read my email today. So, okay. Thanks. That's great.
Cool. And is this more of an FYI, or I guess do we need like a stamp of approval on this? It needs to be approved, huh?
It technically does need to be approved. I think the board will just do that as a matter of process, but there's a change in the language that does implicate a policy distinction difference, and so that's why we definitely wanted to raise it. So
Okay.
Yeah, it changes the scope, potential scope. So definitely, yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Next up is build stronger ties between at-large maintainers and their CPC rep. This is issue 761. We've gotten all of our check boxes done here. Toby, do you think we should leave this open, or how do you want to move forward with this particular issue?
I was wondering just as much. I think we should probably leave it open and revisit in like, I don't know, like 6 weeks or something to make sure that we're actually following up. We always bump into this kind of issue here, right? Like how can we get back to things in like a quarter or something like that?
Yeah. Well, with this one in particular, I could imagine maybe making a reminder in the Slack channel, since one of the items here was create a Slack channel. So we may be able to just create a reminder in 6 weeks to check this issue, and we could just take the agenda off of it or close it and double back on it.
Right, but we can't really put that in the same Slack channel. It's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't want to put a reminder in the Slack channel that we created for the community to talk with those CPC reps about the CPC reps checking on that Slack. It's kind of weird.
Oh, I guess I don't mind it.
We could create a doc, which is like the quarterly reminder list, right? And that could be a list of things that we want to do every quarter or something, like if we thought we were going to have enough of those, and then you could just PR things into that when there was additions. Then we just have to remember to look at that list once a quarter. But, you know, that should be easier than all the individual things if they're not written down somewhere, right?
We
Yeah.
could have like we could have a discussion about this, how to organize this whole thing, but sure.
It's not a bad
I'm
idea to
joking.
have a document like that until we really get some tooling.
But one of those one of those project Kanban boards could also work for that.
Yeah.
I mean, the GitHub ones. We could just stick those in, review next quarter or something like this, and then have a in the meeting doc, have a reminder to check that board every meeting? It's annoying that it's so hard to get sort of organized for that kind of stuff at a level like this.
Yeah.
I mean, when there's, at a group level, it's easy to have a personal reminder for something like this, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, something that's going around in my head is a document like Michael was saying, and even just check it every, as the chair, I could just peek in it every, before every meeting and just kind of highlight what upcoming dates are in the document, whether it's election or the voting members need to be recertified or whatever, all those kinds of things, at least until we get some tooling in place.
Yeah, and that could be, so forget the quarterly one. It could be like a list of quarterly things. It could be a list of like annual things. And right, if we started out, like I say, we had in the agenda, a quick review of that to see if there's anything we should be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That
Yeah,
might be a decent way to remind ourselves. Also gives you a bit of a heads up, right? Like you look at it, oh, not yet, but that's coming. So it's not a bad thing to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's not a bad idea. I think we should maybe do that for now, a manual kind of
Thanks,
document.
Rich.
Slowly.
Makes sense. Then that covers off the next one too.
I didn't see Rich leave too. I wasn't looking. Bye, Rich. Yeah, I was wondering, is that the next issue too? Yeah, reminder for long-term events.
Mm-hmm. That's
Okay.
sort of a related. Yeah.
All right, maybe when we get done with this meeting, I'll start a document that we can hack on and get something in.
That's good.
So what do we do with this one in the meantime? Do we close it? Do we leave it open until, do we like have a special label for those?
Why don't we just leave it open? I'll make this document. We'll have a reminders section, and then we can reference that document in the issue and close it, or at least take the label off it.
Do we want to keep the CPC agenda label on that one on 761?
I can remove it once I get this document going.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay. All right, great. So that touches on the next thing, as Michael said, issue 758, reminder for long-term events. I'll work on that right after this meeting. So moving on, create proposals for the community fund.
So we've got the LIFT scholarships that we're working on. I think Robin touched on that on our last regular session call. She's out, so we've tabled sort of moving forward on this until she's back. I want to make a shout out to the next working session. We're going to be talking about the community fund and specifically, things we can do with it next. So that is next Tuesday, the 7th as well. So, that's the update that I have there.
I think specifically on this one too, I remember an email from Robin saying like, here's the proposal and like it's going to go forward. So I guess it's, if CPC members have any concerns or now's the time to respond. Otherwise it's sort of silence is assumed. Yep, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
that's typically, and definitely take a look at that and let us know if you have any insight or suggestions or whatever. But we're just needing to kind of finish up the form, finish up the timing, but otherwise we haven't heard too much, so we're moving forward.
okay. Great. And then last but not least is DCO, CLA implementation guidance.
Yeah, so we had a really long conversation about this one, I think, last time. And I briefed Brian about it, who wasn't able to attend that call or this one. We're talking with Mike Dolan and LFIT about the feasibility for us to take on something like this as part of, just our infrastructure. I don't have any update for you all about like where LF is leaning on that, but just to be clear, is the Probot DCO app that we've been talking about. The CLA itself, as I've said earlier, we're migrating projects off of the old JS Foundation infrastructure onto the new Easy CLA infrastructure, and that's going really smoothly so far. So if you're on that, let me know. We can pretty quickly get you moved off of it. So that's those two tools. In terms of like guidance and documentation, as we've been, for example, moving the projects to Easy CLA, Brian and I are documenting further like what that process looks like and kind of how it works and that kind of thing. So you should start to see more just improvements to the test repo. We have a repository on OpenJS Foundation where you can test how Easy CLA works and check out that documentation there. So please let us know if you have any feedback on how that can be more helpful, more useful to your community as they potentially choose that tool.
It would be good to be able to link to that test repository in the README from the IP policy guidelines that we have in the CPC repository, I think.
Okay. It's a good idea.
Cool. I am also just starting this reminders and dates document here, so forgive me. Is there? I was listening, but is there anything more on this one here?
I don't think so. I think there we go. Just we need to follow up more with the Probot folks and with the LF folks to see really what the expectations would be for us to be code owners here. And I think there was some suggestions that Tierney made that seemed very reasonable.
Yeah.
So we're hoping we can move forward with that.
Great, that'd be great. Excellent. All right, cool. We already kind of talked about September 7th working session being a community fund proposal idea session. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. That's the next topic on the list. Unless there's something y'all would rather take up next instead, there's no requirement that that's the next one. That was just the idea. Assuming no preference, then the other thing I think we could recap right now is the call from the last working session last week, which was very lightly attended, but I think we did kind of come away with at least one thing we could work on. And that last week was the Nebraska projects conversation. So I don't know, Michael, do you want to summarize that? That was something you attended too, so.
I'm trying to remember what the good summary would be.
I'm sorry, can you just again explain what the Nebraska thing is? I know there's a joke behind it. I forget it every time and I need to be reminded of what it stands for.
It's from the XKCD 2347.
Oh yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. It's about one little component being supporting the whole thing. We had a lot of discussion around like, well, who are we trying to help here, right? Because part of the discussion is you have a small project, they're supporting this whole thing that, if they have problems, it's at risk to all the stuff stacked on top of them. But they may be perfectly happy where they're at, right? Like they created their little component, it's working fine, they're happy. It's not them who have a problem, it's the rest of the stuff that's piled on top of it. And so the discussion is like, who would the foundation be trying to help? And then in that context, what does it make sense to do in terms of, what would help be, right? And, you know, I don't think it's not as clear as just saying, well, we're going to offer those, you know, finding the you know, offering some projects something, right? Because they may be perfectly happy the way they want and don't want any help and don't want to change anything, right? On the other hand, there might be some who'd be happy to have help and to expand things. But I think the concrete next step, Jory, and I'm forgetting a little bit, is like to try and see if we can figure out what some of those components are, right? Or would be in the JavaScript ecosystem, and find a concrete example that we can then look at, and, you know, it's better to understand and discuss in the face of a concrete example.
Yep. And just to kind of report on that, I reached out to the libraries.io team / Tidelift folks to ask, you know, if this kind of is, my assumption is this data would exist inside that data set, and to see if, make sure it was still up to date, because the last libraries dump was from 2020. And they said, yes, you know, I think what you're looking for is in here. The API is up to date, even if the dump is not. So action is now just to start doing some queries there and just sort of see what we can pull out, and then bring that to the group for discussion. So
I'm wondering if underscore, that if I'm correct, is that the foundation doesn't really meet that kind of bar, and would be interesting to talk to their main maintainers.
underscore JS.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
maybe.
fairly small project that's relied on a lot, or at least it was. I don't know how much it still is today. Tierney?
Lodash has largely overtaken it, from what I understand.
Okay.
That was part of the discussion too, was like just being broadly used doesn't quite meet that, you know, everything depends on it. It's kind of like it's a mix of, like, if there's 5 broadly used things, then it's not as big a risk as if there's sort of like one you know, one thing that everybody uses and has no other alternative.
Justin Ridgewell is the maintainer on underscore.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So, well, and we was, you know, not pulling out specific projects exactly, but like Lodash underscore. Lodash is part of the foundation. It's one of our projects, and it kind of also meets that same, like.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I probably mixed up both, because like I haven't been looking at that space for a long time, and so I'm, you know, but and maybe that's, you know, maybe that's sort of out of date too. I was just wondering if there weren't projects in the foundation that met that bar of being small, in terms of not corporate driven, essentially, and relied on by lots of projects, without being necessarily sort of like top of mind in the stack. That was kind of like the criteria I had in mind.
Yeah. I would say Lodash fits that very well.
So yeah, and I think we were looking at saying, okay, let's take a look at each individual project, and then also understanding like that project's dependencies, and are there like things within the project that, you know, all of our projects seem to use the same sets of dependencies, and some of those people may need or want help, and what can we do? So just sort of thinking about looking for that data, and understanding like health in a generic sense. So that's the action from that. Yeah, that's all we have to. I added the scant notes that we took are in the notes doc here today. So.
Just multitasking here. I created the file and opened a pull request for the dates and reminders. I have to add the actual dates for like the elections and selection times, but started that day.
That's
Cool.
awesome.
Awesome.
Yay.
Yeah, if you think of anything else to add there, please just suggest in the PR and we'll flush it out real quickly and land it soon. And then maybe we should
Cool.
make an update to the meeting template to just remind us to check on it. That's about it. I'll even put that in the PR.
I think that's the end of the agenda.
Yep. And it's 12:53. Anything else we want to talk about for 6 minutes or so? Okay.
We should say to our colleagues who are missing us today because they're at the TC39 meeting, have a great meeting, have fun, hope it's raucous and in a good way.
I'm taking, it's lunch right now, so that's why I'm here. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't.
We'll be interested to hear what comes out of it.
Lots of good things so far.
Good. Glad to hear it. Excellent. All right, well, see you all next time or around the campus or whatever.
Yes, around the campus.
Like that happens these
Yeah.
days,
Yeah.
right? Take care, folks. Stay safe.